Space, the final frontier. Greetings, greetings everyone, and welcome to this TrapcodeTAO session. Today we're gonna create a cool ring light planet system using TrapcodeTAO, and it's gonna be a great occasion to look at how we can apply textures on spheres, and also use the repeater to have nice rocky debris layered together, and how to set that up in a way that will be not that heavy to render. Let me create a new project and let's see how we're gonna create that. So at first I'm gonna create a composition with a square ratio, and let's call this Saturn. And we're not gonna create Saturn, but we're gonna create this cousin. So what can we do first is perhaps go check at some info about our subject. So let's see here what it says on Wikipedia. The Saturn is a 32-bit 5th generation home video game console that was developed by Sega. Oh, that's not the right one. So Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun and the second largest in the solar system after Jupiter. It has a gas giant. Blah 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 blah. Saturn has a pale yellow hue, so here is it's due to ammonia crystals, and here is some info that can be useful to us as to we're gonna know what kind of hue, what kind of tones to apply on our textures, and also here it describes Saturn has a prominent ring system that consists of 9 continuous main rings and 3 discontinuous arcs, and that is composed mostly of ice particles with a smaller amount of rocky debris and dust. So that's also useful for us to know that it has 9 continuous rings and 3 discontinuous arcs, and has hundreds of moonlets. 62 moons are known to orbit Saturn. That's a lot. I didn't know there was that many moons. So this info, well, we're not gonna do something. You can of course create any kind of planet you want here. It's not about creating a perfect, realistic Saturn, the same as you can see through a telescope, or if you would be on a spaceship right in front of it. But here is just to get inspired by this giant gas planet, and we can make our own. We don't need any rules here to apply, but let's get inspired. So first I'm gonna create a solid. Let's call this Tau, and I'm gonna apply TrapcodeTAO to it. So first we need some kind of rings, and we need the core, which is going to be a sphere. And how can we do just a simple sphere with TrapcodeTAO? Here's a simple way. I'm gonna use Command Shift Alt L, keyboard shortcut, to create light, and I'm gonna create a spotlight. And the spotlight, I'm gonna call it Tau sphere, all in caps, like that. And I can here choose any color I want, so I'm gonna choose a neutral color. I'm gonna make it white and click OK. So as I do that, as you can see, there's a nice little sphere that becomes available to us, which we can keyframe to move around on the timeline as we want. So let's make it 0 on the Z, and actually let's center it right in the middle of our composition, and we can do so by creating a new null, and Control Shift Alt Y to create new null. And here I've made it 3D, and I'm gonna copy the position here, and I'm gonna paste it there, so I know that my planet is right in the center of my scene here. So this is the first step, and now the second step, we're gonna make sure here in our Tau from lights options that we are actually getting the size from radius, and that we activated. And we can also get a few steps ahead here, and I'm going to explain why later we do that, but we're going to apply also a fractal amp from fall off. We're going to check this option on, and we're going to see later on just why we're doing that. So that's what we're doing now. We have a nice circle here, and here we have our path generator, which we can use. And in this case, let's see how we can use this without having our own custom path. This time we're gonna use the path generator, and maybe later on we'll use lights if we see that we need that for a reason. So let's go in segments, and let's choose repeat spheres. So now we get some circles here, and let's put this really small value. So let's put 1, and that will make our little spheres very small, and then we can increase the amount of segments. So now we have like a circle with a stroke of points, and our planet has become so small that it's not even visible. So we can remediate to that by going here on the radius, and since we've connected it to this property here of the light, we can then increase it. So we need a really big value now here to make it big as a planet once again. So let's try, let's go 15,000. Alright, so that makes a nice little planet here. And also what we can do right off the bat, as you can see here, we have like a low poly geometry. If we yeah, let's increase the amount of sides. So that sphere seems to have a kind of its setting of its own. So let's try to hard code the amount of sides here that we get. So let's try to put 80 and see if we can change it doing so. So yeah, as we do that here, we've increased the amount of sides. But let's set this back to the default, and in this case what we can do also to get a smooth planet here is we can go in the rendering options, and here in the shader let's set this to smooth, so we'll get a better result here, but still we get we'll need to increase the amount of sides here. So let's put SID 80, and that'll make it more spherical without making it necessarily hard to render. So let's see what we can do with our rings now. So let's get in the randomness here, and the first thing we might want to do is increase the random X position and put a little randomness in there, so they get spreaded around. And let's add a camera, 50mm, and I'm going to create a new null, make it 3D, and use it as a dolly, so I can have my camera stuck to something that's right at the center of my planet here. And if I rotate that object on X, for example, I can look at my planet through another angle. So if I put 90 here, we're just looking at it from the front, and perhaps I can now determine that this can be more flat. So on the random Y, I'm gonna just put 2. Alright, so we get a more flattened ring. So that's one ring. If you want to have more debris, more particles, you just increase the amount of segments. And let's see here. Let's make it also random on the scale, and that will of course be applied on our planet also. So that will randomize the size here. If you want to make it bigger again, then you can also get back in here and increase that, or also you can change the random seed of this until you get a big planet, if that's another way to do it. And we're not gonna change the scale X on this because it's gonna affect our planet here. We have this, since we're using the auto path, now we can't write any hard code, any light commands on this ring. So perhaps we're gonna want to use lights after all. But let's do it with that, since it's there for us to use easily and quickly. So now let's repeat this ring. And in the Wikipedia it said it has 9 rings, so let's make it 9, and let's uncheck this, and let's make 9 repetitions. So by default it's going to repeat it 100 pixel on X, and that's not what we want. What we want is the segment position X, like that. So at first when I do that, now I have my rings repeated, and it's kind of the same randomness here. It's not selling it, because Saturn is more chaotic than that. It would be really weird if the debris were placed in the exact same manner on each ring. So that's one thing we can fix by checking this option here: unique seeds when randomized, when repeated. So that means that if I check that, it's gonna already make it more believable, and it's gonna randomize it on each rings. So now we have like distinct separation on the ring here, and what we can do is here change the segment position factor. So if we increase that, it will make more and more space between the rings. So maybe that's something that you want to do, and then we can decrease this back to make it smaller once again. And now they are all the same color, so we cannot make any difference between them. So let's see how we can make each of these ring a different color easily. To do that, we're gonna use the repeater color layer, and to use that feature of TAO, we're gonna need to create a texture to specify for using here. So let's create a new solid. Control Y to create a new solid, and in this case I'm gonna make it, I don't know, 1000 by 1000, some square ratio. I'm gonna click OK, and right away I'm gonna turn this off, and I can call it text, and I'm gonna hit Control Shift C, and I'm gonna leave all attributes in Saturn here. So now I have a composition in which I can go to add a texture. And a quick way to make something that would be kind of look like Saturn is by making a fractal noise. And if I do that, then I can get in the random, in the transform here, and if I uncheck uniform, if we uncheck uniform scaling, then we can stretch that out horizontally, and let's put something like 8000 maybe. And then we can get back in Saturn, and let's come here, and yeah, I'm a little bit I'm a little bit lost here. That's the texture for the planet that I was doing. It's but now what we want to do, this we're gonna apply on our planet, but what we're gonna do is create a texture for the repeater. So let's create another one. Sorry for that, and let's call this rep text, and this will be the one we use to color our rocky debris. So let's once again make a new composition out of it. So rep text, and let's double click here, and this we want to make a color pattern. So let's apply a ramp to that, and let's apply our friend colorama right here, and that's not the kind of colors we want. We're gonna aim more for desaturated colors, so I don't know, maybe around this for rocky debris. And it also said that it has icy particles, so let's add some maybe something close to a blue shade, and really not a lot of color in there. So perhaps some can be pale, can be brighter, and let's leave it this one green, maybe darker green here, brownish, something like that. And let's get back in here, and actually let's look at that's a lot of rings. Anyway, let's get back here. So now we have this, which is going to be our planet texture, and this, which is going to be our color pattern for our rings. So let's get in the repeater, and let's choose here rep text, and automatically it's going to also apply on our sphere here. And right now I can see that I didn't angle it correctly, so this needs to be set to 90 degrees. We want to have vertical stripes here, so TAO is gonna go, okay, this color and 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 this color, and as many of those you have, it will apply a new color when it repeats your object. So let's hit Control Alt front slash to refresh, and now we have different colors applied on our ring, which is pretty cool. So let's keep it like that for the moment, and let's apply our planet texture. So the other one that we've created, we're going to apply it by going in the texture section here, and let's apply the other one, text. So that's our planet texture here, and oops, that you can fix it by making it seamless, or in my case, we're just gonna look at it from the front. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit simply by not rotating it on Y, but here on the TAO sphere rotation, I'm gonna just make it so it's on the other side, so we don't see it. And now we can assume that they are really small, so it's not really obvious, but our texture has also been applied to our little fragments here. So if we want to not have it applied there, we're gonna need to use the light instead of the path generator. Is the only way. So maybe at this point we can just leave it like that, or let's see how to recreate that but with a light. So I'm gonna create a new solid, and this one, let's make it 500 by 500, and I'm gonna call it a stamp, and let's hit OK. And perhaps it's a little small, so I'm gonna hit Control Shift Y to get in my settings here, and let's make it 700 by 700. And let's choose the ellipse tool here, and let's double click so we make a perfect circle here. And I'm gonna go get the path here, so we don't need that anymore. And I'm gonna create a light. I'm gonna call it TAO, and since I know that I don't want texture applied on there, I'm gonna already write text 0 like this. That means that the texture won't apply on that. So if I do that, it's gonna put it there. I don't care because I want its position to be that. So I'm gonna hit P to reveal the position here, and then I'm gonna hit paste. So it's gonna paste my path from the mask to the position data of the light, and this is going to make it 60 frames. And since this time we have keyframes on our light, we don't need to go here, and but we can still do it, won't change anything. And what we have now is not the same thing as as we have here. So, oh yeah, I think that right away we need to go in auto orient, and we need to set that to off, so our light isn't pointing towards its anchor point there. And now we have it exactly. This is exactly the same way as the automatically generated path, but this time we can tell more things to it. We can specify things here in the light commands, and that enable us to turn off our texture on these specific parts, because we don't want this texture to apply on there. So there's for that. Let's put some lights, and let's pull back a little bit, and let's add some light there. So let's hit Control Shift Alt L, and gonna add an ambient light. And in space there is mostly just the sun that would produce lights up to there. So let's make an ambient color and an ambient light. Let's call it amb. And let's create another light, this one a point light, and let's make it the same. So let's choose our general light direction. So let's make our sun in the back and on the left here, so we can have this part here really bright, and let's try to have this on the back here more darkened, as if I kind of want to see it. Where is it? Let's reset its position. There is. So let's bring you over there and way back this way and there and bring it up a little bit. And I don't think we want to use any specular on this planet, since it is there's no specularity on gases. So let's make that 0, and let's reduce the amount of ambient light. So now we get mostly the light from our diffusion here. So let me hit Control Shift H to hide this, and now we get more of a shadow here on this side, and this is the sun brightening it. So here you can mess around with the settings to influence that even more, and we can activate a smooth light fall off, and let's set the light radius very big. So now we can, if we do that, now we get even the ring on this back part here. We have a little bit less of it. So that's one way to have that. So there. Now if we want to get a detailed aspect on our little fragments here, if we want to make them like small little kind of asteroid particles, let's see how we can do that by applying some fractal displacement. And let's zoom in. So I'm gonna go really close just to look at those from a closer distance. So let's see, I'm gonna get this more towards me like that, and let's zoom in even more. So now we have our particles here. They are pretty simple shapes. Now we can add more size. I think we can keep it and if we do that, of course it's gonna become spheres. But let's change their shape now. Now they are all rounds, but if we use some fractal displacement on them, let's start by adding an arbitrary value. Let's put 100, so boom, that will morph everything. So maybe that's your looking for, but in our case we don't want our planet to be affected by the fractals, so we can simply get in here and our options by hitting A twice on the keyboard, and then here on the fall off distance let's put 0, so our planet will keep its round shape. And then let's get back to our fractal settings. So let's set that to segments, and that's really big, and let's set that to 10. So that will kind of deform this here, and perhaps we want to put that to that. And let's see here, let's increase this, or let's increase that. So if we want, now we don't have any enough segments, I think, to get complexity in there, so let's make it like 22, and if we add that many segments, now it's gonna start to take a little bit longer to calculate, so be wary of that also. Let's go in the individual amplitude here, and we're gonna drastically make it really increase those values. So let's put 2000 here on the frequencies. And let's put like 2000 here as well, but the amplitude let's put like 0.3, and then it's gonna take a little longer to refresh. But then if we do that, we have kind of shapes that are more like it's kind of hard to see now, but let's zoom more there. So we're gonna have shapes that are if we move around with the camera, we want to keep the amount of sides pretty low, so it doesn't bother us when we move around, but then we can get an idea. Alright, so that these are not perfect spheres anymore. They are like little pieces that are affected by the fractal, so they are chunks that looks more like little asteroid pieces, little debris if you zoom up closer on them, but they still look like rings if we look at them from a greater distance. So let's rotate that 45 degrees, and let's look at our thing. So now why I'm saying this is not Saturn, because Saturn, of course, these debris are very, very, very tiny, and if we look at Saturn from this kind of distance, we almost see those as like filled up glamorous ring space stuff. So let's increase the amount of segments, and here is, you can always have it more like populated and still have the different colors and our gaps and all, and maybe you want them to be not as bright, so we can go to this color here and make it more of a gray here, like that, and then we have less bright fragments here. And once again, we can reduce this here to have even smaller pieces. So it all depends on result you want, and you can make anything you want. Use your imagination, create new kinds of planets. So play around with that, and so that's my little way of creating a Saturn-like planet using TrapcodeTAO. Thank you for watching. See you next time.